What is up, sports fans, and welcome back to another episode of Pez's Picks. I'm Jeff Hartman. I do not do the picks. That's the guy Pez here. But before we do that, if you're watching on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We do appreciate it if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, especially Apple Podcasts. We give 5-star ratings. You leave a good comment. We appreciate all that. It helps in the algorithm and all that fun stuff. With that out of the way, what's up, Pez? How's it going?
Well, Jeff, we're making a comeback this week, but I think we lost 3 in a row over the weekend. And, a real gamblers, Jeff, remember their bad losses more than their wins. It's almost like a sadomasochist thing. Like we're looking for the pain. We never hide from the results. Those 2 game sevens burned us, and we're on a comeback trail. We hit a couple Premier League games in the NBA last night, and those game sevens were nuts. But I like to remind all the followers we're gambling. And at the end of the day, you go with the advantage and the numbers if they draw out, but they don't always play out. And that's what NBA betting and baseball betting. Oh, Jeff, I don't even want to talk about it. Our first baseball play reminded me why I hate baseball. 4-1 in the bottom of the ninth in Yankee Stadium, and they blow 4 runs, lose 5-4. Probably never happen again this year, right? So,
Yeah.
we were talking about on Instagram there. Baseball and NBA are at different points of their season, and there's different ways to look at these games. And, there's desperate play in the NBA, where in Major League Baseball, I think those guys are drinking in the dugout sometimes. And you might throw a pitcher for 4 or 5 innings who's mowing guys down, but they're trying to save the arms. And, baseball, you're almost looking at betting in multiple games kind of in a way. And, I guess that's what's great about it, Jeff. That's what we're doing.
So we had a little bit of a funk over the weekend with our picks, and you talked about the game sevens in the NBA. Let me ask you this though, as a bettor, was there anything you ever did to get out of a funk? Like, did you ever just say, you know what, I just need to win one. Like, I just need to pick a gimme. Like, there's always those gimme picks that you may not make a lot of money, but what did you do? Anything?
Well, we just stick to the system, Jeff. And we talked about it last week. The system, if it's hitting 60 to 80% of the time, I mean, we're getting gold medals there. And that, gambling is tough. Um, I think right now we're at 59% hitting in the NBA, which is still great. When you're hitting 6 out of 10, 7 or 8 out of 10, you're making a lot of money, and you're making free money. That's what we call it in the gambling world, making free money. Money won is way better than money earned. It just feels better. So, we didn't do anything different. We have our system, our indicators, and those games had what we were looking for. And sometimes the system just doesn't pan out. The Pacers against the Knicks, and I talked about a lot of guys in the biz, and we've been wondering, New York going to run out of gas. I think they did a little bit, but the Pacers had the best field goal percentage game in the history of the league in the playoffs. They could have missed, and I watched that game. And that's why it's a game 7, back and forth. And then we go to Denver. Game was over at halftime, Jeff. The game, they're blowing them out. I went to bed, to be honest. I passed out at halftime. I woke up about 1 a.m. The TV's on. Oh, my God, they win by 30? So what the hell happened? Was I dreaming? And, that a desperate team, Minnesota, a young team, they must have had a good locker room session, and they came out and defended as good as anybody's defended this year in the league. When you're moving Jokic from spots that he wants to take, and that's the genius with Jokic, he gets to his spots. And Shaq used to do things like that. Some of the great big men, and they were moving him off his spots, and that's the key. You want to get guys in uncomfortable positions, and I haven't seen a team work him like that in 2 games in a row in a long time. And we should have rode Minnesota again. We hit them in game 6, but tough to not bet home teams. And, we were a little conservative Sunday, Jeff. The numbers were tight. We did have the advantage we're looking for, but it wasn't overwhelming. You figure we're going to go with our numbers. Both home teams, one's going to win a game 7. I don't know if it's ever happened where both game 7, 2 game 7s a day, and both road teams win. So good for them. And, you stick to your system. You can't look for, the golden ticket like Willy Wonka. You can't. Once you start doing that, you're chasing your money. And we talk about that a lot in the biz. When in my casino days, we would look at friends of ours and say, you're chasing your money. Come have a beer or something. And we used to call it heading back to the ATM. You can't head back to the ATM. You got to move on. You got to invest your money with the money you've earned. And you don't want to go over the top. And, if the system's been working, it's going to come back. You might hit 7 in a row. You might miss 3 or 4 in a row. And, you want to be above 500 every 10 plays, and that we haven't failed at that yet. So that's what we're going to continue doing.
Well, let's talk about our NBA record. NBA record right now, so far these playoffs, 23-16. It's a 59% winners. We want to be above 60. That's where we want to be. That's our target. But you know what? 59 is really close, and we still have playoffs to go. We're not done.
Yeah.
So, we talked about a little bit of a struggle. The Game 7 screwed us in a lot of ways, but you're feeling pretty good about these upcoming finals, are you not?
I am. And we've got better data now. Regular season data is helpful, and it works out a lot of the times. But once you get into the playoffs, it's an entirely different game. It's more physical. It's way different game in the current NBA in the playoffs than it is in the regular season. They're allowing guys to hand check, which if you're not a basketball fan, hand checking is when you push with your hand on the player with the ball. And that was 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s basketball. They took that out of the game, and it's opened the door for more European players, kind of like when hockey got rid of the bruisers and they made the rink bigger. They moved the goal up, I think, isn't that right, Jeff? And open skating then, so the Euros have a little bit more, access to skating and room. And just like in the NBA, if you're not hand checking, guys are hitting open shots. I mean, if Michael Jordan was in that league today, he'd be averaging 45 a game or more. But in the playoffs and in that Knicks series especially, they were pounding. They were hand checking. So now that we have data, it's a little bit of a different game. Tonight we're taping on Wednesday. Tonight Dallas is at Minnesota. And, there were good numbers for Dallas regular season, but when we look at the playoffs, 8-3. Minnesota Timberwolves against the spread, covering just under 80%, 8.7 point margin of victory. I mean, legitimate, strong numbers there, and that's what we're going to start going with. Once you get to 10 games or more, that's data you can count on. And early on, we're going off regular season, and teams adapt. I mean, the Knicks were way better than anybody thought they would be in the playoffs. The Pacers have been way better. They're actually defending a little bit. Last night we took the over. And we did use regular season data, plus, the fact that the Pacers light it up and Boston can too. 4 out of their 5 games regular season, they hit well over 222 points, which was last night's total. There was a game where I think it was Boston hit 155 points. So they did defend, though, the Pacers. And, we put a good lean in on the Pacers for the series. And, I'm wondering if that game last night is going to really cause it. They win that game last night, I think legitimately they're probably going to win that series. Porzingis is out. They have nobody down low that's a big man. I mean, a legitimate threat. And Indiana's a big team, and they've defended way better than they did in regular season. One of the worst, I think they're 27th, 28th in the league in defending. And they bruised the Knicks, especially in that Game 7. They thumped Brunson. They made DiVincenzo, uncomfortable. And, I think they're doing that to the Celtics, and I like that team. I think we got plus 600 to take the Pacers to win the series. I think that's the best value bet we've seen all year. And we talked on Instagram. A value bet is almost a little bit of a long shot, but you're getting great odds. And, some of the series bets comes down to not just computer analysis and algorithms. Vegas is trying to balance things out. So I'm guaranteeing there was a ton of money on the Boston Celtics to win this series. And I think that's an inflated line, plus 600 before that game last night, but they're trying to balance that money out. Vegas doesn't gamble. They want 50% on both teams for every bet. And, it's not easy to do, but I think that value line is a good one. And I think that could pan out. I think the Pacers could shock the world a little.
So you mentioned the Instagram account. I'm always going to plug it, and also on Twitter and X, is whatever you would call it. Pez's picks on both platforms. You can check out more daily picks from him. So if you're curious, he's just kind of talking about these series as in general terms. Well, you got to check out his Instagram feed. Check out Twitter and X, again, at Pez's picks on both platforms, and you will get those picks there. And this is just the start of something much bigger, which we'll get to down the road. But any other final thoughts, like Mavs, Timberwolves? What are your thoughts on that series?
So tonight we are going to go with Minnesota. And the defense that they played against Denver, if they play that style of play, they're not going to lose another game. I mean, were fantastic. Edwards was fantastic. They're big. They've got a little bit of some veteran status down low there. I love Dallas too, though, Jeff. I love that team. I love their backcourt. I mean, probably the two best guards of the last 20 years. So that's going to be a fun one, and anything could happen in these games, of course. But I think the more physical teams, and I'll give a little access or insight to what we study and our indicators in the algorithm. Rebounding has decided almost every game this playoff series for the NBA. The team that dominated the rebounding margin in each game has won and covered almost every time. Indiana last night, I think they had 53 rebounds. Boston had 52. So they should have won that game. They made more field goals, and they kind of blew it at the end in overtime. Tatum did what Tatum can do, and one of the best guys in the league. So it's going to be a fun one. We're going to keep looking at totals. Dallas is a great first quarter team. The other thing we looked at tonight with Dallas, I think Dallas could win the series, but they got blown out game one of both of their opening playoff series. So I don't know what that means, Jeff. Sometimes that team goes out, you're like, are these guys really giving a damn tonight? So, Kyrie, he is what he is, and Doncic too. So I'm willing to see tonight. I think Minnesota lights it up, and Dallas going to really put it all after game two and try and steal two at home and get to 3-1, and that's the goal. You get to 3-1, you're in the driver's seat, and
Yeah.
and I think there is some gamesmanship in how they come out, especially banged up teams in the playoffs. So it's good. It's been a great NBA playoffs, better than it's been in a long time, I think.
Okay. So and make sure you check out Instagram and Twitter at Pez's Picks for his full picks. That's the NBA roundup. Now, you did mention baseball, and you mentioned what a horrible introduction to
Oh
our
my God.
baseball picks the other night. Let's talk about baseball picks in and of itself. You kind of talked about what happened at Yankee Stadium, but what exactly is your approach to baseball? Because there's a lot of different avenues that you can go with baseball picks. You can pick over, under, or total in terms of numbers of runs scored. You can do a spread. When you look at this and you look at baseball picks, how do you view it?
Jeff, we in the gambling biz have talked about baseball. It's kind of the woman you fall in love with that you shouldn't. It's your favorite bourbon. It's a poison, Jeff. It's a lure. Because in the summertime, there's nothing else to do, right? You're sitting around, you're at the beach, you're like, let's get some baseball action, and you're drinking. It's a little bit easier now than it used to be. 20 years ago, when Derek Jeter and the great Yankee teams, you might take the Yankees laying 1,500 to win 100. And I was involved on both ends of those plays, Jeff. So when I was betting for them, I'm like, oh my God, it's very stressful, but it's exciting. You might miss one out of every 20 bets, and that's a big chunk to lose. Today, the odds are a little bit smaller. I mean, we don't have steroid infused super dominant pitchers anymore, so it's a different league, and we're looking at a little bit more small ball in baseball, which is going to create more runs. And that Yankees game reminded me of the danger of baseball betting. But the new plays today, the new action, you can bet 2-inning games, 1 inning. You can bet 5-inning games. I like to get a couple months into the season, though, Jeff. 10 games in the NBA is one thing, but when you're playing 162 in baseball, you want 20 to 30 games to really take a look at things. And I don't know if everyone's a baseball fan, but generally there's 5 pitchers. They pitch a game, then they sit 4. So if you're looking at 20 games, it's only 3 or 4 starts for each guy. So we're trying to get a little bit more data on them, and that's going to help a lot. And the danger right now in betting baseball is they have a different goal right now. The goal is to maintain, maybe be 500. Don't get your starting pitchers hurt. And the pitchers these days have a lot of arm issues and elbow issues. They're throwing harder, they're training differently. So they might yank a guy in 5 innings, and then you're looking at 2-3 relievers, and you don't know who the hell they're putting in. They're putting in some farm boy from South Dakota you never heard of who throws gas, but he might get rocked. That's what happened. I mean, that was the first blown save for the Yanks all year, and sometimes you pick the winner, sometimes you pick the loser, Jeff. But that's why it's fun, right? I mean, I yelled, and I think I woke my kid up, but that's fine. It's fine. We worked through it.
Well, and the thing is that I'm looking at a book right now just out of curiosity because I've never bet on baseball, and honestly, if you think back to, like you mentioned, the Jeter era and all that stuff, they're probably very simple bets. Like, are you taking the total? Are you taking the
You're taking
spread?
the Yankees. They're winning
Yeah, for
100,
sure.
125, 130 games. They're losing one out of every 10. So it's fun,
Yeah,
but it was
it is.
dangerous.
But now you talk about these other types of bets. I mean, there's inning bets that you mentioned. They have specials per inning. So the specials in the top first are the 3+ strikeouts. Is there a home run? They have batter props, whether it's talking about to hit a home run overall, to record a hit, the first home run type. I mean, this is insane. Pitcher props, like you said, first 5 innings, hits and runs. It's incredible the amount of, I mean, and these lines move frequently. The Pirates and Giants just moved again while I'm looking at
There,
the book. So yeah, it's
Jeff,
crazy.
you wouldn't believe the action on Major League Baseball in the summer. It's kind of a quiet gambling thing because the games are on every. It's all that's on TV, and that's all people are doing on vacation. They're watching baseball, and I much more enjoyed when I was getting the calls of who people were taking them, and I was placing the calls, Jeff, because it's a lure. It's something you have to be very disciplined. You can't be betting baseball every day. It's like going to the track and picking winners every day because they're losing a lot of games. And like the strategy right now, we're going to be really looking at is taking 5 inning bets where unless they're getting rocked, which doesn't matter anyway because you're losing, the starting pitcher is going to do 5 innings. I mean
Yeah.
that's kind of a rule of thumb, and after that they could be at 100 pitches or close, and they're yanking them. So are they trying out new relievers? Are they giving guys some pen time? And the things that you got to look at, and we have to do our research reading. I mean, our uh, the legendary gamblers tell you that they get every major city's newspaper every day because that's where you're getting the local news. You're going to see who's independent, who's taking a rest, and with the internet that's helpful too. But you kind of got to get to the local newspapers for baseball betting, and you get daily information that might slip through some internet sites or depending on what you're going on. So Chicago and Cleveland, and those are the websites that we're hitting, and it's work. But you look for the advantage, and those prop bets are nuts, right? I was hanging out with the fifth string punter from JMU 25 years ago. He said to me, "You doing the Seinfeld Paul O'Neill bet, where Paul O'Neill went and saw the kid that was sick in the hospital and said, I'm going to hit you the home runs.' And I think he hit 2, Jeff. I think he did.
Yeah.
So those are the crazy bets. I think they're a little bit more raffly. But baseball betting changes, and there's late scratches on players, and it's a fun sport. It's great to kill a day, but it's agonizing as a gambler. A game takes for freaking ever, and sometimes you're looking and you're like, those guys got bombed up last night, which they do. They're playing, 6 days a week. They let them hit the town, and I like to bet against teams that are on their first night, their first game after their first night in New York. And that's what we did with Seattle, Jeff. That it was their first night. They got there early Sunday. We checked the times. So, they were getting in town. So like 5, 6 o'clock. Party time in New York City, right? What do you tell these grown millionaires? You're not going out? And the first 9 innings or 8 innings, they look like guys are at, Scores or some of the famous gentlemen's clubs in New York City, Jeff, which I think are classy places. But they were out late. And then the next thing you know, boom, a guy gets a hit. Like, hey, let's try and win this one. So Yankee Stadium's an amazing place. I miss the old stadium. I won some bucks there. Had a great bar across the street, stands, a stand-up only bar. And I saw Roger Clemens pitch there one of their last years they were open. And I miss those type of pitchers. I don't think steroids are healthy, Jeff. I'm not a proponent of them, but baseball is definitely more exciting with steroids, right? Yeah, Roger Clemens, he was literally trying to kill people. He threw Piazza's bat at his neck after it shattered. So it was kind of crazy. It was like WWF wrestling. So now it's a little bit more like college baseball, and you can small ball win. They're not 70 home run guys anymore.
Well, if you want to see a good young pitcher that can throw really hard, look at Paul Skeens for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Amazing.
Dude, no hitter, his second start in Chicago threw 6, and they yank him because he's thrown 100 pitches, which his 100th pitch was 100 miles per hour. So that just tells you what kind of arm this guy's got.
It's responsible coaching too, if you think about it, right, Jeff? I'm thinking of the guy from Washington, amazing pitcher.
Strasburg.
Tommy John first season, and I remember watching. They were talking about trying to be cautious, and boom. So I think that kid throws 102 miles an hour, if I'm right, and that.
Who, Skeens?
I think he does, right?
They've got him, and they've got Jared Jones, who also throws over 100 miles an hour, and they're 2 young studs pitchers in the Pirates bullpen or in their rotation.
Yeah, games like that, a philosophy. We used to look at even with Clemens when you have power pitchers, they're throwing the ball straight, and there's occasional whether it's a tell, whether the ball, where it's lighting, but it's not an uncommon thing to have power pitchers get rocked for home runs. They don't give up hits, but rocked for home runs and give up a lot of runs. Power pitchers are also, when you're looking at it from a gambler perspective, strikeout pitchers are not a great bet. They're great pitchers, and they're usually big favorites. But when you have a strikeout pitcher, hitting goes down for your team. When there's no hits and the guys are standing in the field, and I played some baseball, it's boring. You want the ball hit to you. So you do 3-4 innings, you don't touch the ball, your at bats, your average goes down significantly, and that's something we look at a lot based on the other team, and you can usually get good numbers on it. And that's the danger of taking those studs. Sometimes they'll blow a team out 1-0, but I think this time of year that's harder to count on.
Yeah, and with a prop bet like number of strikeouts, shoot, if you can get 8+, Skeens is going to hit that number more often than not. So
that's that's a solid bet. That's kind of like an interception bet, though. You're betting guys hot, or he's going to be a little off. And yeah, I mean, we'll look at all those, and it's a baseball can be a fun thing, but you got to be very disciplined. You shouldn't be betting every day. You should be betting baseball every day for sure. And that's when people start chasing their money, when they get in a little bit of hole. Sunday nights used to end the illegal gambling week, Jeff, and you had to pay up by Wednesday so you could get your plays in. And Sunday baseball was always the heaviest betting day. People usually try to chase their money so they don't have to go meet their guy in the Tony Luke's cheesesteak parking lot in Philly there and pay up their bookies. So it's probably similar. I mean, Sunday's a fun day. Everybody's off. Couple beers on the beach, and Dad's calling those bets in. So we're going to find them winners, though, Jeff. We're guaranteed.
Yeah. And it should be noted that you said you shouldn't bet baseball every day. We're probably not going to give a baseball pick every day. We're just going to give baseball picks when we feel like we have a good one that fits the system. But let's talk a little soccer. You wanted to bring up soccer. You were 2-1 in the Premier League, and that one loss was a long shot. It almost played out, but still, What do you think about soccer?
Well, I think it's easier betting the Premier League at the end of the season for sure. And Man City, we went with a big long shot. I think it was plus 2,400 at West Ham. I think we talked about it on Instagram, where we call them units or whatever you normally would bet. You're not going to put your normal amount on that, but you're getting plus 2,400 odds, $10 when you're 240. So that's a value bet. And at one point, Man City was only up 2-1, and West Ham, they're a crafty team and a tough team. Manchester United, gave us some glory. They ended, Jeff, and now there's the hype. Are we firing the coach or not? I think he's gone, Jeff. I think the guy's history. And we had the over for Luton Town. Luton Town and Fulham hit, I think it was 3.5. I think they scored 5-6 goals. So proud of our Sunday picks, and we're warming up for the Euro tournament. It's going to be starting in a few weeks. The European World Cup it is. It's awesome. So you have to be careful with that one too, Jeff, because crazier stuff happens in soccer than even baseball. A few years back, Iceland, I think, made it to the semifinals of the Euro. We're talking Italy, Germany, England, Spain, Portugal, some of the greatest teams in the last 100 years. And these guys got to the semifinals. Their goalie was an actual dentist. He was a full-time dentist playing for their national team. To get to the semis, it was amazing Euro. And that's the kind of thing that it makes the summer a little bit more fun. And maybe we'll try and draw some Americans more into the football across the pond there.
There you go. That's not my cup of tea, but for a lot of people it is. So there you go. So we'll have some soccer plays for sure. I got to ask about golf. What did you think about the PGA Championship last week? Before we talk about the Charles Schwab in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania coming up this week. Not a bad field, by the way.
No.
But let's go back. Let's rewind the tape. What did you think about the PGA Championship? Of course, Scotty Scheffler getting arrested.
I mean, there's some surreal moments in sports, right? And when I saw that, I'm like, are you kidding me? I've been telling people who aren't big golf people, he's actually rated down for being so nice and boring. He's a very religious guy, and he's like this amazingly good person who he doesn't ever get angry, Jeff. I watch that guy play. He never curses, never gets angry.
Nope.
The guy's like a cyborg. And the more I read, he was polite, and maybe the officer's having a rough day. I have friends that are cops, and us guys on the one side of the law and the cops, we get along. We're the same people. So So the gambling world and police, they go hand in hand, Jeff. I think the guy's probably, was tense. They had a worker killed, but the fact that he goes in, what's shoot 500, right? He
Yeah,
goes to jail.
he shot 66.
He goes to jail. They took a jumpsuit picture of him, Jeff. That to me is like that's shocking, right? This guy Scheffler, he didn't name drop. He's saying,
Yeah.
"What's wrong with this guy? He's almost too nice." I'm starting to get worried. It might be a serial killer, Jeff. That's an awesome guy. Uh, we're taking him, Jeff, this week. Not to get ahead, but the course let me down a little. It played a lot easier than it was, thought it was going to be. A lot of guys lit it up.
Yeah, I can say that for me, I don't want to see a major championship with a 21 under winner.
No way.
The Charles Schwab Challenge, have at it. Finish
Fine.
30 under. Couldn't care less. But when it comes to the majors, I don't like the fact that the cut line was under par.
Crazy.
It was under par. I mean, your boy Tiger wasn't even sniffing that in any way, shape, or form. But still, I was like 20 under. I mean, I got to be honest. You don't like the live guys, and I understand why. But you can't tell me you weren't pumped that Bryson made that birdie on 18 to get it to 20 under. And then Xander Schauffele comes to 18, and he knows I got a birdie to win or I'm going to a playoff. I was hoping for the playoff.
Me too, Jeff. Great finish. And two guys that don't like each other from what I've read. And Scheffler's kind of controversial. His dad's like this, he's like an adventure guy, Jeff. I don't know if his story. Dad was his swing coach. He's building a completely independently eco lodge on a mountainside in Hawaii right now, and he's living in a storage locker. He's building it himself.
You're talking about Xander Schauffele's dad?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why he stepped away from being a swing coach, and I think it kind of opened Scheffler's game up a little bit. And this guy, he was one of the big guys behind the Ryder Cup controversy. He thinks they should get paid, and he's this. He looks like a South American cartel leader, Jeff. This guy's awesome, but that I was thinking about it in the background. He had to walk down the mountain and go to a friend's house to watch the back nine. He's no TV. This guy's off the grid. And a millionaire prize, so it's even weirder. But I used to like Shambo when he first came on the scene. Those early Masters, he wore the European caddy hat.
Mm-hmm.
I love that guy. He's just become over the top, Jeff. I hate the Shambo at this point. That guy's a lunatic, Jeff. I like his game, but he's like a bad guy in pro wrestling. I mean, he's enormous, and the stupid clubs, and the stupid putter.
He's an entertainer, man. Like, it makes it fun. You were invested because he was there.
Oh, I love watching him. I love hating him, right? And that's what we lost in Live. All the villains. Yeah. What, I'm going to get mad at Justin Thomas? I mean, Shambo, Brooks, DJ, all the badasses. I mean, they used to talk about how DJ walks the course like a gunslinger. And then I heard a guy say that one day. I really go like, holy shit, this guy is a gunslinger. It's like a Wild West movie. So, Sergio, did you see he just missed the qualifier for the U.S. Open by one stroke?
Yeah.
He hit seven guys hit the playoff, and first hole, Serge was the only guy to bogey. So I think he's an alternate. He might still get in, but yeah, I miss those live guys. But having said that, they didn't play too hot. No. I think that it might be settling in a little bit. You're into some combat fighting. I know, Jeff, and training and all. Like, and guys like yourself tell me all the time, if I don't train for like a month or so, I get my ass kicked. You just lose a little step, right? It's like a muscle memory, and they look like it, right? They're not unhappy either. I mean, hey, good for them. If I got 400 million, what's going on with my golf game? I'm just happy.
It's not good when John Rahm, who was the face of the PGA Tour, decides to take 400 million up front, goes to live, and he's saying before the tournament, "I am still a PGA Tour member, even though I'm suspended," and all of this stuff. And you're like, "Oh my gosh, man! Just if you loved it that much, you should have said no to the money and stayed. Yet you took the money," which I don't blame him for taking the money, but he sucked. He has sucked in the majors this year. Finishes at the very back end of the Masters, misses the cut at the PGA Championship. Yeah, I mean, outside of DeChambeau, the live golfers playing well in majors has not panned out. It has not panned out.
And I was thinking this the whole time, but it looked like they might hold on. But it's probably about a year and a half out. And I mean, you got to lose a step a little bit. We were playing in the minors. It's kind of a minors. There's less pressure. Well, there's no pressure. You're playing scramble. You don't even, hey, okay, they got 5, I got 5. Like,
That's a
there's
team
no
thing. It's not a scramble, but it's a team thing. Well,
stupid.
I think when you think about like the PGA Championship and in these majors, like the PGA Tour, we'll talk about the Charles Schwab now, has been unbelievably difficult to bet on
Oh,
outside of Scotty Scheffler.
horrible.
Picking these winners has been, I mean, you've always said that it's like a raffle ticket, anyways. You
Yeah.
hope you win, but you're not expecting to. So you like Scotty. What is he, plus 280?
I think you take Scotty no matter what, Jeff. This guy is like, he said he did yoga, and my wife got real excited, Jeff, and said, this is why you're doing well in gambling for my yoga she makes me do. The guy did yoga in a jail cell, he had on an orange convict suit, and he goes out and he almost won.
Yeah.
Argue didn't affect him at all. So I think he's gonna have a little chip on his shoulder. If I got embarrassed like that, without what it seems like, I think it was a big mistake. So I think he goes out and smokes this field. Right, this course to a guy like him is like must play mini golf. I mean, he's going to be bombing at 340. I think I don't know. That's my play this week. That's an easy play to make every week, but I think this week especially.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Scotty, I'll give you Colin Morikawa plus 1,200. If the dude could just make a putt, he's going to win some tournaments. I mean, if he can figure out his putter. And then Max Homa still is playing good golf, plus 2,000. He had the tweet of the week, though, when he said, Louisville didn't work out too great for me. I lost to a guy who was literally in jail on Friday. So,
well, there's another example, Jeff. Max Homa is one of the most likable people in America. You can't get pissed off. You don't care if you're pulling for him and Jordan Speed. You need a badass in there. We need Surge back. We need Ian Poulter. We need Rahm and Brooks, and they got to figure this out. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's like the
do.
NFL got split in half.
Yeah, exactly.
What the hell happened here?
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, man. Good stuff as always. Any final thoughts?
Well, let's enjoy these final weeks of the playoffs, Jeff. It's going to be a good series, and I keep an eye on those Pacers, and we sure are. I think that's going to be a value bet in every game, and could be a big winner for the series. I hope.
All right, we'll be up on that with Pez's picks. Make sure you check them out at Pez's picks on Instagram and on Twitter and X. And yeah, Pez, as always, thanks for your time, man. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.
All right, later, buddy.